Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hey, can you hear me? I guess.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right.
Heck,
Awesome.
I'll just put you up in a little window here so I can see you. There
Yeah.
we go. Hi,
Cool.
Sam. How are you?
Hey. Hi, Scott. I'm good.
Good.
You're my first guinea pig doing these
Okay. I
interviews.
do appreciate being experimented on, so this will be fun.
Lovely. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for those that don't know, Scott is from the Evan Williams project, which the heavy which is hard rock or hardcore rock?
Heavy rock is probably the
Heavy
accurate
rock. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
probably there's a whole bunch of different subgenres that you can get
Right.
into the weeds too, but heavy rock kind of covers it, so
Heavy
we're good
rock.
there.
Okay. Heavy
Yeah.
rock from Pacific Northwest or based in yeah, Vancouver,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Metro Vancouver. I mean, the we're all in that area. I'm in Delta myself, so
Right.
we're all just kind of based around there.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about the heavy stuff and going through some of your music. Like it's heavy, but I think something that really jumped out because, and then I know some of you talk about like heavy riffage and all that kind of things, which is definitely a prominent aspect. But I really noticed your singing is like
Mm.
way better than I expected. Not that I expect anything from you, 'cause I
No,
don't
no, no, that's
know.
fair. I'll take the compliment. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from like in terms of heavy music,
Mm.
that was a really like I listened to a lot of melodic things like with singing, I guess, and
Mm.
that was impressive. I
Oh,
have to
thank
say,
you. That
yeah.
that means a lot to me. I mean, the nice thing about going to theater school for 3 years
Oh,
is you get professionally voice trained. So
that's
I
amazing.
did have that sort of background, and I grew up, singing in church. So I
Oh,
kind of came into it with a little bit of a head start because I had all of this actual like professional work done and figuring out like where my voice is and how I can manipulate it. And then it was just a matter of okay, so I know how to be, I know how to do the Oklahoma thing. Now how do I do the screaming thing?
right.
And that was actually harder to learn because that is
Oh,
it's a
nice.
very precise thing that you got to do, and it's so weird because it sounds like this raw and visceral thing, but like you're actually being very precise about
Right.
where the position of your breath is going in like the back of your throat and in the top of your like soft palate. It's super technical, but like when you hit it, it's so easy. It's it actually like I could theoretically do like an entire night of screaming and be okay. Um, just like I used to be able to do like an entire musical and be okay. So yeah, I do appreciate that. I'm quite happy with the way my voice has been sounding on some of these recordings. So thank you.
Yeah, and even like the earlier ones, like
Mm,
it's like I had to figure it out. Like, when is this from? Right? It sounds so good, and it's consistent. Now it makes sense because you've been trained, and
yes,
that's amazing.
the
That's really
as
cool.
it turns out, spending thousands of dollars to have someone tell you how to use your voice actually learns you how to use it. So that's good.
That's great. That's really cool. And
Yeah,
just letting
and
us see. Yeah.
I'm a big Devin Townsend guy as well. I don't know if you
Right.
checked out any of his stuff,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the guy's vocal range is just completely insane. So he's been an idol of mine ever since I got into his music, and so I like his influence has been just so ingrained in the way that I approach my songwriting. And like I when I get to a part of a song, I'm like, oh, I feel like a vocal passage could go there, and immediately go, what would Devin do in this
Right.
situation? So yeah, I I think it's a good influence to have because he's again phenomenal vocalist, but
Yeah.
he's also like the sweetest guy in the world.
Right.
So he's a good one.
Nice. Did you see him live when he was in Vancouver?
Did
Nice.
I
Awesome.
did I
Yeah.
almost died. We were in the fifth row. We all went as a band. I
Not
forced
oh,
everybody to
that's
come.
awesome. Well, that's a good learning experience for the band, I
Oh
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was phenomenal. I mean, I say forced. Really, I forced Karen, my wife, to come with us. But we we got like 5 tickets. We're in the 5th row, and just like seeing him up there, and we're flashing hearts at him, and he's like going like that and making us do the YMCA. It was great. That was a phenomenal show. Like I loved every minute of that, except for when except for when James LeBrie shooed us away from the front of the stage during Dream Theater's set. But you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, makes sense. And it's actually really interesting that you pointed out, Devin, because again, listening to your stuff, even from, because I found your music a few years ago, must have been. I think it was when Isaac, your keyboardist, was recruited, and I saw it on my Facebook, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool!" And I messaged him. I was like, "Isaac, you're in a band," and it was cool. And I looked at your stuff, the music, and it was heavy, obviously, but it was very, to me, very experimental. Like, there's all this, like, I don't know, narration, and then you have for the album, like, it was Metamorphosis.
Metamortality, yeah.
Metamortality. And then it's got the whole album. It starts with something like some kind of almost theoretical. Again, I don't know the word for it. It's kind of. It
was a narrative. It was because that whole thing was a concept album, and I bookended it with this. I was such a nerd when I was writing this album. My gosh.
I love it.
So I for like a couple of years in college, I got really into like self-hypnosis as a concept. So like there would be all these things that you could find online. They were like binaural beats with self-hypnosis. Always do the same thing. You get like these like lo-fi ambient sounds, and then it's like, welcome to the and they would give the same instructions every time, and it never worked. Like the best that would ever happen when I would fall asleep, but I really wanted it to work. And so
fair.
I just brought that I suppose personal experience into that, of going like, okay, so here's a character, he's coming home from a hard day of work, and he's sitting down, and he's going to listen to a self-hypnosis tape, but this time it's actually going to work, and he's going to battle inner demons and come to a new realization. It spiraled out into this big thing. Metamortality started out as just like, I wanted to make backing tracks because I wanted to play live. So I had put out an album in 2019. I use the term album lightly because I don't like it anymore, but I really liked it when it came out, called Hate Machine, which was a collection of songs that I'd spent probably 2.5 years working on. I was so proud of it. It was the first thing that I was like, this is my serious effort as a music producer and musician, and it sucked. No one listened to it. But there's a handful of songs on there that, even though I had gone through the experience of, I put this out, it sucks, people have told me why it sucks, but hold on. There's a couple songs here that I still really like. And so I rescued those from that album, and I was going into Metamortality like, okay, I'm going to take these songs and I'm going to redo them. I'm going to bring them up to the new standard that I've learned how to do. And, maybe we'll just add another song at the front end of it. And that was the title track, which was that, 7-minute long progressive metal thing. Nice. And I had written it in one key, and then I realized, oh shit, I need a 7-string guitar for this, because it's just like that kind of. So I had to borrow one. Nice. And then that's put me down a rabbit hole. I've got an 8-string guitar now. That's how far down that hole I've gone. But that album just like spiraled out of my control almost instantly. Like I went into it with an idea, and then all of a sudden it just went like, and now it's like 1 hour and 10 minutes long, and it's got a narrative and characters. And I honestly, like, I can barely remember anything else about it. It's like a complete haze, because that was during COVID too. Oh, so okay. That was like, it was like a 7-month period where everything just was up in the air. So I think I might have like subconsciously just put that back there. Not going to look at that for a while. Right. Because I honestly don't remember almost anything about it other than the concept. But yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting to see how you look back at your work, and I like that you could kind of resurrected some of your songs for that. That's cool.
Yeah, I did. I really liked how they turned out when I fixed them, and a lot of them are actually some of our live staples now, like Blood for Blood, Tear Down, Crush Depth as well. I was not expecting that, but we love playing that song live, and
Nice.
people love getting into it. So like, you know, I'm really glad that we rescued those songs.
That's good.
But I'm the kind of I'm the kind of guy who is super self-critical.
Mm.
So I will look back on my own work constantly, just until I get sick of listening to it. Cause I really just, I honestly, I cannot do any creative endeavors without wanting to improve at it.
Right.
Which really sucks if creativity is like an outlet for your stress in the day, because then it just becomes more stressful. I started trying to write recently, and I think I wrote like a chapter, and I sent it to a friend, and he's like, oh, this is really good, I really like this. And then, oh, sweet, cool. And then I wrote 2 more chapters, and I sent it to him, and he came back telling me the things that he was critical about, and my mind instantly went into, oh shit, okay, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? How do we make it better? How do we make it's just like, oh, I was just doing this for fun. So I'm just, I have to put myself in the mindset there where I'm just like, I'm just going to do it and not show anybody. Because the second it becomes a thing that I need to show to people, I'm like, how do we do this? How do we make this perfect? Right? Like, so yeah, it's a curse, I suppose.
Interesting. So you're saying then that if you keep it private, you don't get critical of it?
I think it depends on what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm learning, right? I'm learning how to be a creative in real time, and falling flat on my face and getting back up and doing all this stuff. But yeah, definitely one of the things that I've noticed is that if I have to like manually tell myself this is just for fun, take it so seriously,
right.
Just chill out, right. Please. So that's the kind of attitude I'm trying to bring to things. And I am starting to bring that actually into the music work now, which has been very beneficial. I think if I didn't have that attitude for our last album, Stereo Psychic 1, I feel like it wouldn't even be out yet.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's like, so yeah.
I get that. And what is it? A band I don't listen to very much, but you know, Winter Sun?
I know Winter Sun, yeah.
And it's like, it's been, I don't know, 10 years plus or something, apparently.
Half-Life 3 of the heavy metal world. Yeah, no, I know.
So it happens to the best of us. And yeah.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't dare to compare myself to Winter Sun, but yeah, no, I totally
understand.
Good art, especially good art that people expect, takes way more time. Yeah.
Makes sense. And so in that process of, now we're talking about your creative process. Let me just think about, so is it like, do you mostly kind of figure out most of it yourself and then maybe get some people to look through it? Or, you know, how does your own vision and other people's feedback play into that?
That has been the way that it's been for almost the entirety of the work that I've done up to this point, where it's just like, I'll have an idea and I'll see it through to as far as a finished demo as possible. And like with Stereo Psychic 1, I wrote the entire album and recorded a demo for it in like 2 weeks. And then I just it was over Christmas. So we didn't see each other, like the band, we didn't hang out. I didn't send it to any of them. I showed up at rehearsal. I'm like, hey, how's this? Like, do we want to do that? And they were like, yeah, no, that's good. And then, you know, everyone after that is going like, okay, so how do we put our spin on this as a group and like allow everybody to bring their identity in the music? But yeah, everything up to this point has just been like, I'll have an idea and then I'll hyper focus on it for like a week and then just get it done and and kind of drag the band along with me whether they want to or not. But we are definitely wanting to, as a group, now that we're sort of really solidified as like this is the band, right? Like it is all of us. It is not just like Scott McGowan and his sister and Isaac, right? So it's become like a singular thing, and I think this album has really like made that clear that we are a unit. So we're gonna go into the next album with that attitude, and that's gonna be hard for me because I'm a control freak, but I will survive. We'll get through it, and it'll be better for it because Jackson has been asking me if like we could sit down and just write stuff together forever. I'm just like, yeah, no, let's absolutely do it. And then we never have the time. So yeah. Yeah. But control freak. I've been a control freak for like the last 8 years of my life. So that's been the process, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean that's a very different thing to like collaborate just from the get-go. It's a very different process compared to kind of like, you have a vision, you have an idea, kind of do most of it first, and then, carve it out,
Yeah, and I think what makes it easier for me to do that is because I have the experience both as the musician and the producer. So when I'm thinking of a song, I'm also arranging it in my head, and there's choices that I'll make when in the songwriting process that will translate into, well, this is going to make it easier to mix. This is going to like bring this part up and things like that. So like, and again, I tend to hyper focus, and I tend to just be like, I don't want to say anything racy because I don't know who's going to be watching this, but there are theories that I might be on the spectrum, a little bit somewhere, and one of the manifestations of that is this hyper focusing thing. And so it's worked for me for this long because I can just I can shoot a demo out in like a few days, and then you gotta do what works, right?
I mean, I would say it works. As long as I don't know, your health is fine and everything, because that goes down.
And that's definitely the case. Yes, I definitely eat 3 meals a day and go outside and do all those things, especially when I'm hyper focusing on an album. I definitely take care of myself.
Just going back a bit to, because again, I was the most impressed by the vocals, the singing part. So, so at which point, starting with the choir and the theater, at which point did you start doing more music or the heavy things go into your life?
Yeah, so I honestly I feel like I never because I thought right out of high school that I'm gonna be an actor, right?
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go to acting school and then I'm gonna act. I'm gonna be in plays and movies and shit like that. So I honestly never thought it would get to a point of like music is taking up 90% of my free time. But it was in 2017 or so. Actually, just even a little bit before that. It was in like my last year at Studio 58, and there were a couple of electives that I chose not to go to, and I was just I was bringing my guitar for plays, like we were doing. I don't know. Excuse me. When we did Romeo and Juliet, I was part of the band that was on the stage, and then when we were doing something else, I was a doctor with a duck hat and an acoustic guitar. That was a weird one, but I was more and more bringing the instrument out of the church context and more into like the, hey, we're just a bunch of creative people creating something context. Because up until that point, it really was just the church context. Like I started playing guitar in church when I was 15.
Okay.
And it was like I really loved Metallica and I loved, thrash metal and 80s stuff and Van Halen and, 90s metal core type things. And I was taking lessons for that sort of stuff, but like I kind of just held the idea in my head like this is not a serious thing. Like this is just a thing that you do for fun. And then it became, well, this is a thing that you do to get better at being a church musician.
Right.
So getting out of that context, because also when I was going to studio, I didn't really go to church very much because I was at school 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I ended up just kind of like living there for the 3 years that I was in school. And yeah, just being in that context where it's a bunch of young, creative people just looking to try things out and see what works. And there's just a little part of me that was like, well, I mean, I kind of know how to record audio. I kind of know how to do this and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to sit down and I'm just going to write something. And I wrote like 4 songs and I had like this crappy little drum machine behind them. And I didn't have a bass guitar that I liked. So I just tuned the guitar down real low. And I just was like, yeah, this is kind of fun. And then I didn't touch it for like 2 years. Nice. And then got out of school, graduated, and I'm in the workforce. I'm married. I kind of look back at all that stuff. I'm like, maybe I'll give this another shot just for fun. And that was like a turning point for me, because that was when it was like, hey, this is making something tangible.
Right.
I can actually like generate this out of nothing, which is a super powerful feeling to have. Yeah. Like it's almost like magic at times. So I got addicted to it and I'm like, I want to do this all the time now, but I couldn't because I was working full time at Starbucks. I was terribly depressed. Right. And I was just like my life, other than my marriage, was just in shambles. Like I did not know what was going on. I wasn't getting acting roles. I was just a complete mess.
And sorry, what year was that? Like around?
That was like 2017, 2018. Okay. Yeah. And then in 2019, just at the beginning, around the beginning of the year, I walked off a job that I was on because I didn't agree with the business practices of the owner. And then I was unemployed for like 9 months. And during that time, I'm applying to places. I'm not getting calls back. I even went back to Starbucks. I'm like, hey, give me that. And they were like, well, you might run away again, so we don't want to hire you. So I was just 9 months, no jobs, nothing. But then I got into a play, and that was like a thing. And that just started generating like a creative thing. And I'm going, okay, what if I spent this time that I'm at home, not doing anything, just kind of learning more about this thing that I like? And I was just like consuming tutorials on YouTube for hours upon hours every single day and just trying things out. I barely knew what I was doing, but that just got me into the realm where I'm like, okay, I actually kind of know what's going on. I really like doing this. And this is something that I can do that other people can't do. And that was like, boom, we're ready to go. We're doing this music thing now, I guess. So that's where it all came from. Yeah.
That's actually super inspiring.
Like,
I expected, again, looking at like the quality of work is like, you've been doing this all your life. And
oh yeah.
And I mean, in a sense, you sung for a very long time, but like, I would see interviews with other people, or they like talk about they've been playing guitar all their lives, they've been wanting to do it all their life. I think that's something that personally I never relate to. I don't do something like my whole life.
Yeah,
knew what I want to do. But,
well, yeah, and like to get into that kind of situation, like it's super rare to
Yeah.
have something that you can like really focus on and will carry you through, because you know you change so much as you grow. And it's just like, you know, I honestly, I hear those stories and my brain just turns off. Like
Uh,
it's like, okay, good for you, you've been playing drums since you were 6 years old. Fantastic. I'm really happy for you. I want to hear about the 40-year-old guy who dropped everything and taught himself how to play the guitar, because that's what I care about. That's like the human spirit right
yeah.
there. You know, that's someone who is taking their situation and they want to change something about their life, and they do it, and they just do it, and they don't care about if it's good or if it's bad. They're just having fun, and that's the shit I love.
I love it. That is amazing.
I'm actually,
I really didn't expect to hear this today. Like that's really
oh,
cool.
there you go. Oh, I'm glad. I've been running that. Me and my buddy Ray, he's also a creative type, but he's more like the, you know, drawing things, and we kind of have to hype each other up sometimes, because it's just, being a creative in general is just terrible in this society.
Right.
So you know, we really do just, you know, every time we feel like a little low, we'll just like text the other person and just go like, yo, I need a hype up right now. And it's just like 10-minute phone call. It's like, bro, just do it. Doesn't matter. Just do it. Just get in there and do it. I don't care if you feel like you're qualified. I don't care if you feel like you can do it. Just do it and see what happens. Because if you don't, you know, that sort of stuff. And I was talking with him. I'm like, oh, we should start a podcast, like you and me, man. We're gonna call it Just Do Shit, and it was just gonna be, the whole show would, the idea would be that we just talk about how great it is to just do things for no other reason other than why not, right? But then I realized that we'd run out of guests pretty quick. So that's a little, you know, tuck that away just in case, maybe one day, but not today.
Fair. Okay, so just trying to let that story sit, and oh, just talking about I've found really relatable whatever you was talking about. The, you know, you had one thing in mind, you know, going to theater school and acting, and then obviously, like a lot of us, we get depressed as we try to survive.
Navigate the hellscape that is Western society. Yes.
Yeah, and do you think any of that, you know, the depression and somehow was the gate, not gateway, but like, you know, like as in, I think about it sometimes as in it happened for a reason, and that was kind of part of the path, right? You know, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I do actually. You're not the first person who's asked me that question, because I am very public about my mental health problems. I was diagnosed with depression in like 2016 or something, and I've been on medication, off medication, and back on again. And you know, I mean, that sort of stuff. It's all a roller coaster. But like, I will say two things that can be true at the same time. The first is that I would not wish depression on anybody, not on my worst enemy. And the second is that it has humbled me and taught me so much about empathy. And it is, in my personal opinion, that you cannot make great art without being humble and without empathy. So, you know, I don't want to get, you know, I'm not really a determinist at heart, but I will say that something good has come from my mental health problems, my mental illness, I suppose. It would have been nice if it had come from a different thing,
Right.
but it has, yeah, it has informed my work. It has informed my growth as a human being and as a creative person. And I do think my work is better because I have that personal experience.
Yeah.
But I would not want someone else to go through the shit I've had to go through. It's just like, I don't know, people tend to like romanticize it a little bit, and I don't, I get it, right? Like when I was a kid, honestly, I thought it was like interesting. I didn't think it was cool, but I thought it was an interesting thing. It's like, whoa, like you're not in control of your own emotions and brain. I'm like, what's that like? And like looking back on the kind of stuff I wrote when I was a kid, I'm like, wow, I was depressed as a kid too. So maybe that was just me like projecting out what I needed help with into the world. But yeah, no, it's not something that you want to have. It's not, it is much more of a hindrance than it is a boon.
Right.
Which is why medication is great. And I recommend it to anybody. But yeah.
Makes sense. And so would you say it was kind of discovering and kind of really going for the music? Well, did the making music part help with the depression? I'm gonna assume.
Yes and no.
Okay. Yeah.
Because yes, in that, and I've talked about this with someone before. I don't remember when. I think it was a little e-zine that I was getting interviewed for. But like the thing that I like about writing music is I can really, if I write from where I'm at, it allows me to examine that and what I'm feeling. Because you take where you're at and you just put it out there into a medium, you write down whatever, and you turn it into something. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is not a part of me anymore. It's like just letting a little orb go. And, you can watch it go. And like a lot of the stuff that I've written about, it's not in me anymore. Like I physically will try and go back to that place and I can't, because it's not a part of me. I've already taken it out. I've put it in something. And that's amazing. On the other hand, one time I wrote a song that really sucked, but I spent a lot of time on it. And I was up until 3 a.m. on the suicide hotline. So yes and no.
So was that from the struggling to write the song?
It was from the struggle, yeah. Because I had like the rest of the album done. This was on 24/30. I had everything done but the the fourth track. And I've been working on the fourth track for like more than the rest of them. And it was a riff that I really liked, and it was an idea that I really liked. And I was just like pouring all this time into it because I'm like, yes, we're at the finish line. We're doing this. We're going to put this out. This whole album, by the way, took like 5 months to make. It was a blitz, and that was horribly unhealthy. So I was already, sleep deprived.
Right.
I was already, not eating properly, not going outside. And I poured all this time into this song, and I rendered it, and I listened to it. And I go, oh my God, this is terrible. And it was just like my whole body collapsed in on itself. And because I didn't know what to do then, I was like immediately, flip flop from we're at the finish line, we're going to do this, to, oh wait, I can't do this. And so that was a bad night. Somewhat comically though, I never got through to anyone on the hotline. I waited on the line for, I think, oh no, I didn't actually call. I texted, because you were allowed to text.
Okay.
So I sent a text, and and the website said like someone will get back to you in like 15 minutes. And I waited 15 minutes and I didn't get a response. I'm like, well, I'm sure they'll get around to me at some point. And then I waited another 15 minutes and then another 15 minutes and then another 15 minutes. And I just sat there like looking at my phone for probably an hour and a half. And then I just laughed because I'm like, this is kind of, this is messed up, but it's kind of funny.
I know what you
that
mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, having that time where I'm not focusing on the terrible song I made actually brought me out of that. So, and I'm super thankful that I got out of that place because, but that would be an example of how it has not been good for my music.
Right. Makes sense. So you at any point, if you don't want to go into details, it doesn't matter. You can just let me know. But I'm curious, like, because I have my own reasons that have sparked suicidal ideation in the past. Just curious, like for you, was it kind of like, you're so attached to this idea, you put so much effort into it, and then the whole thing crashed on you, right? So is it just kind of like, oh, what are your thoughts at that point? Like, is it, I suck at this? Is it, my life is not gonna go where I want to go?
Yeah. I have to think about that one because thank the Lord, I have not had issues with suicidal ideation in several years now. But yeah, it's along those lines. Like it's this feeling of putting so much of myself into something and investing all my time in it and then having it fail. Like that translates in my head to, oh, well, I am a failure because I have failed, because this is me and this failed.
Yeah.
So clearly I have failed.
Right.
And that, of course, spirals into the self-doubt cycle of like, well, if I failed here, who's to say I'm not failing at everything else and no one's told me about it and I'm just a terrible musician and I'm wasting my life and I should have gone into something that would actually make me money, and oh my gosh, I am never ever going to make it in this business. What am I doing? I'm spending all this time and all this money and all this energy on this, and you can see where it will go. And again, thank the Lord, I don't get to that place of, well, let's just, check out early, I suppose. Right? I don't get to that place anymore. I hope I never will again. But it is just, it seems like a frivolous thing in retrospect or from the outside. But like when you're in that space, when you're that close to your work, having it fail is just, it just destroys me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about that. Yeah, when you first talked about this whole like collapsing in, like I teared up because it's so real, and
Yeah.
and I know what you mean, having something that's so personal, and like you said, it's because it is you, that is you. So if it fails, what that equates us being
it's
failing.
and it's hard because this is with any art form, you're going to get critics and you're going to get responses, and you're going to, if you put yourself out there, you put yourself at risk. And so it's not for the faint of heart, this work.
Yeah.
Not if you get as invested in it as someone like I might.
Right. So, yeah. So then, since then, how do you approach your art? Like, you still obviously very invested in your work, and so or maybe what has changed and what have things have helped?
I think the main thing that has helped me is I've just made so much trash that I just I don't know if you've checked it out at all, but I do this since 2019. I started doing this challenge in November
November.
where I would November.
I was
Oh
gonna
my god.
ask you about that the whole time. I'm like, this is
Yeah,
such a cool idea. I was from the
it
first time I
sounds
saw
like a
it.
cool idea. It really
Yeah.
sounds like a cool idea. I don't recommend it to anybody, especially not if you have a job. Uh, it tends to eat up a bit too much of your
I
time.
was
But
wondering, yeah.
yeah, I did it for the 6th year in a row last November,
Yeah.
and I like barely made it this year. I was just like across the finish line going like, holy shit. How did that happen? Because I honestly, I just had so many things happening that month that it was like I wouldn't be home at my desk for days at a time. And it's like, how am I supposed to write a song at 10 p.m. at night after working a 12-hour shift and doing this and this? And it's like, yeah. So I'm gonna approach it differently this year. But anyway, so just having that project and forcing myself to see it through, because again, hyper focusing. Um, I have just tried everything. I've just thrown so much crap at the wall. Some of it stuck, some of it hasn't. Some of it has turned into real songs. Like there's a couple of November tracks that we've turned into actual Evan Williams project songs, but it's just been like I never took that seriously. I was like, yeah, it's just fun, right? It's like doodling. That's what it felt like to me. It's just like, there you go, right? Um, and in the process of doing that, I mean, if you write and produce 180 songs, you tend to get pretty good at writing songs and producing them. Uh, just, just every time I say that number, I'm like, I can't. I feel like I'm lying. Like it's just such a stupidly huge. Anyway, uh, yeah, when you just create a whole bunch of trash that you don't care about, you actually learn a lot about the craft and about what works, what doesn't work, what you like, what you don't like, this sort of stuff. And all of that, I would honestly say that has been the biggest influence on the way that I write music now, because I can approach real music now with this attitude of I'm just going to write something. I'm just going to, and we'll see what happens. And if it's bad, I just don't put it out. I just put it in a folder somewhere. I was like, whatever. We tried it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a much more healthy attitude to have. One of the big problems with that 24/30 scenario was that those 5 songs or 6 songs or whatever it was were all I had. Like I didn't have 40 other songs in my head. I just had 5 songs. So, you take 1 out of 5, it's like a disaster. But, you take 1 out of 200 and it's like, oh, whatever. Sometimes you wake up and you just make trash and it's like, who cares? Just make it anyway. I had one of my acting teachers had a mug, and I really want to get it, but I think it was a custom mug. But he used to always tell his students, never be afraid to write shit, because all of the good things in life grow out of shit. It's just, it's that little plant on there.
Nice.
And that was his whole philosophy. It's just like, just write something. It doesn't matter what it is. Like you'll work on it later. Just write it. Just there it is again. Just do it. Just yeah. So that's been my approach to the songwriting process. Now it's a little more cavalier. It's definitely a bit more imprecise, but it's more fun, which is probably what I should be aiming for anyway.
Yeah. And so speaking of which, so did you have like what was the criteria you had for November? Like every day was like how long of a song or how finished does it have to be?
Didn't have to be.
Okay,
It's
just try to write a song every day.
Yeah, the criteria for November was just here's the prompt.
Okay.
Just do what you want. Actually, this year, a buddy of mine, Taylor Morey, I don't know if you've seen him around. He's a fantastic stand-up comedian and just like one of the weirdest musical minds I've ever met. And he did November with me last year, and that was super interesting because up until then it was just me. Like I did 5 years of this stuff by myself, and now it's like, oh, here's someone else taking the prompts that I wrote and seeing what they've done with it now. Like, oh, that's interesting. So that's where you get, very cool. So yeah, the criteria was just, take a prompt and write a song. It doesn't matter if it's good, just put it out. And so that has, again, it's created a lot of trash, but it's created some like genuinely heartfelt music at times, and also some like high quality children's music that my nieces and nephews really love and will not stop asking me to play when I'm hanging out with them. So yeah.
That's nice.
Ugh. It's good to keep hydrated. Every time I do any one of these like online talking to people things, my throat just gets so dry. And it's just like, just chug down 3 gallons of water.
Yeah, I think I heard one thing they say about kind of making trash is what's it called? A well. You have to first flush out all the trash, and then eventually you'll get some clear water.
Yeah. I think that's, I mean, that really is the way to do it. Like you're never gonna, I don't know. There's excuse me. There's like this really prevalent idea when people first get started writing music, where they're like, the first thing I write has to be great, because otherwise, I don't know, I'll never make it as a musician or something like that. And then what ends up happening, if they even go through with it at all, because the attitude of the first thing I write has to be great is a great way to never write anything. But then the ones who actually do go through with it, and it's tragic, and I see it all the time, they end up like, I'm really gonna lose friends over this. They take their one song and then they go to like Rain City or Echo Plant, and they spend like $10,000 recording this one song. And then they put it out there, and then, I mean, half of them never do it again, because why would you? It costs $10,000 to write a song. It's like, it's the thing of like, if you ask an artist, oh, how do I get started drawing? How do I blah, blah, like, all of the experienced ones will say, like, buy a pencil and get some paper and just draw stuff. Like, just start doing it, right? Like, you don't need to get the giant tablets with the fancy and the braces on your wrists and a subscription to Clip Studio, and so like just get a pencil and get some paper and just draw, because that is going to teach you how to draw, and that is going to make you actually like what you're doing, right? And yeah, it just kills me anytime I see someone that like I know and love and respect, and they just spend too much money making like one thing.
Right.
And I honestly do think it is that attitude of like, well, the first thing I do has to be great.
Yeah, I'm one of those people, so that's why I don't create stuff.
You know what? It's honestly, I think it's like the default for creatives, like growing up, because you always hear those stories.
Oh yeah.
Like you always hear about how, Billie Eilish and her brother like put this album together in their basement, and they put it out and it went to #1 and it went to the moon. And it's like, okay, but you're missing the rest of the context of that, which is that they had friends who owned a recording studio that they sent it to, and then they mixed it. Anyway, you know what I mean, though, right? Like you don't see the sweat in the popular art. You only see the art.
Right.
And so people look at that and go like, well, I have to do that right out of the gate. It's like, no, you don't. You wouldn't be able to if you tried, and you don't have to. So just save your money, pick up a guitar, write a few songs, just have fun doing it. That's the way to do it.
Nice. So then you're talking about this thought of making it as an artist. Do you think about that now, or what would be kind of your goal as you do music?
I honestly, I've gotten to the point where my aspirations are like, I would just like to earn an income at all making music. Like I am so pessimistic in general, but especially about this, because I know what it takes to make this into a career, and I do not have what it takes to make this into a career. Like the only way that I could ever like turn this into a thing that could sustain my family would just be act of God. Like random song gets picked up and then Sony signs it and all of a sudden it's in commercials and blah, blah, blah. Right. Like anything else, it's just, I try to keep my expectations realistic. Yeah, I'm like, if I was earning like $100 a month making music, that would be enough for me, because I have a job, I have a career, I like it, it earns me money, it puts bread on the table, and it gives me free time to do the thing that I love. I've been doing the music thing, you know, for 8 years, and I think if I really went through with like a fine-tooth comb about the money that I've put in versus the money that I've got out, it's bad. it's bad, man.
That's relatable. Yeah, it makes sense.
So yeah, like there's I think I haven't really found my definition of success right now, but I know that I can't expect a whole lot.
Right.
Unfortunately, right? So I'm just trying to I'm trying to live in the present with it at the moment. I'm enjoying playing music with my friends, making stuff, just having fun with it. And if we get some beer money, some pocket change, great. If we don't, who cares? We're having fun. We're meeting people. We're meeting fantastic musicians all over. Like the scene we have here in Vancouver is just so like chock full of brilliant musicians. It's criminal that some of them are like going under the radar. So, you know, we get to meet these people, we get to play with them, we get to hang out, and it's just like, yeah, it's just a fun thing to do at this point.
I love it. I love that. And I think that's a good way to wrap it up, I think.
Yeah, I think that puts a little bow on it.
I don't know if you think so. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? It doesn't matter to me. So
no, I don't. I think we went pretty deep with this one, which is good, because that's a nice thing to do when you're talking for an hour, is actually, you know, delve into stuff.
Yeah.
So
I have one question that has been on my mind the whole time. Who is Evan Williams, or what is the Evan Williams project?
I knew this was coming. Okay, so here's the story. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. When I was writing that trash in 2017, I really wanted to share it once it was done, because I had 10 tracks. That's the album Take 2, where if you go onto our Bandcamp, you can go and listen to it, but I don't recommend that you do. But I had that album, and I'm like, I really want to share this with people. and I was looking around. At that point, like Bandcamp was hard to get stuff onto for some reason, or maybe I just read things wrong. But I was looking around like, oh, I don't want to put on YouTube. SoundCloud, sure. That's the first Google result. So I'll make an account, and I go and I type in my email and I go register account. It says this email has already been taken. And I go, huh? Like, no, it hasn't. Because I had a very unique email address at that time. And it was one that I had been using since I was like 7 years old. So I was like, who's using my email address to sign up for SoundCloud? So I do the recovery process thing. They send me a recovery email. I click the link. I make a new password. And I log in, and I see my SoundCloud homepage, and it says Evan Williams, and that's it. He had no tracks. He didn't like anything. He didn't have any playlists. Nothing. He signed up for SoundCloud with the wrong email, and then disappeared. And at that point, so now I've gone through the recovery process. I still got this album of 10 tracks. I've told people that I'm going to show it to them. And I go, well, I'm going to change the name, obviously. And I go, and SoundCloud tells me I can't change the name for 30 days because I've just done the recovery process. So I just went, okay, fuck it. I'm Evan Williams now. Sure. And so I put that album out as Evan Williams. And so it's Evan Williams Take Two. And then after the 30 days passed, I was like, I don't mind this too much. And also I don't have another name in mind. So I just put the project around it. So it's the Evan Williams Project. So I like to say it's dedicated to Evan. Rest his soul, wherever he is. And the funny thing, I started getting emails meant for him from his job site.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He's like, or he was at the time, he was like an oil worker in Alberta. And so I was getting like safety meeting updates from his foreman and like, construction stuff. And I had to keep emailing him back like, dude, this isn't Evan's email address. Stop sending it to this address. It's a typo. This is not his email. Please. So it took like a week and a half before I finally stopped getting mail for Evan. And I haven't heard from him since. I don't know if he knows that he's inspired this thing or not, but I hope that someday if I do meet him, he's not mad.
That's awesome. Well, by the look of the music, I think he'd be very proud.
Well, debatable. Sometimes these, sometimes these Alberta folk, they can be very particular about their. No, I'm just being no. I honestly, I wouldn't know what he would think. I try to imagine like what would happen if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, someone very specifically named their band after you because 20 years ago you signed up for Neopets with the wrong email," and like I feel like if someone told me that, I would be like, "Am I on the Truman Show? Like what the hell's going on? Like this isn't real." And then I don't know if I'd be mad or honored or just completely weirded out. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, thanks so much for your time today. Really, really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Sam. I appreciate you having me on. It was good to talk to you.
Yeah, it was a great chat. Thanks so much.
All right.
Let's see, how do I fix this?
Oh. Yeah. I also, by the way, I recorded the raw audio of this. So if you want that for anything, I can email that to you.
Nice.
Or I recorded my end.
Right.
So
I was just going to say, I forgot to separate the two sources on OBS.
Yeah.
So I may or may not need that.
Okay. Well, I'll render it out and then I'll email it to you. So you've got it in case you need it.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Thanks, Sam.
See ya.
Talk later.